Let's begin by creating a GetMessages service endpoint and node. This will allow us to get actual messages from our backend to our front-end website. Inside our server.js, let's add a route for our endpoint. We will be using app.get to specify that we will be handling GET requests. So between line 4 and 5, let's add a few lines so that we can make room for our app.get. Then for the first parameter, we need to specify the route. We'll use /messages, since we'll be supplying a list of messages. And then we'll need our callback to handle the request. That will take in request and then give us reference to response so that we can respond to it. For now, let's respond with a test string that says hello. So we'll use response.send and then a string that says hello. We can try this out in our browser by navigating to the endpoint with a /messages. And then we can see the string hello. Next, let's create a placeholder messages list as an array at the top. We will call it messages, and then we'll create two message objects with a name and message. Then I'll copy this, add a comma, and add the second message object. Then change the name and the message. Now we can update our messages endpoint to send that messages array instead of the hello string. Let's save that and refresh our browser. And you can see that we're getting the messages array. Next, let's go back to our index.html and update our front end so that we actually get those messages from the backend using an HTTP AJAX request. Let's go down to our script element and add a new function below our last. We'll call it getMessages. Inside here, let's make a jQuery HTTP GET request. We'll use $.get, and then we'll need the URL from our browser. So let's copy that and paste that in. Then, of course, we'll need a callback that provides us with our data. So we'll supply that as a second parameter. Now let's console log the data to make sure that this step works. And before we try this, let's call our getMessages function and our document_ready function. So we'll add that below our click binding. Let's save that and give it a try. Let's go back to our web app and then hit refresh. If we give this a try, we can see that it will not work. It does not recognize the jQuery get function as we can see in our console error. That's because by default, the jQuery CDN link we copied earlier is using a slim version. So let's remove that from the URL in our script element. So let's scroll to the top, and in the first script element on line 3, we can see it contains a slim version. So I'll take out the word slim. Since we're now using a different version of jQuery, the integrity property will no longer work, so we can take that out. Then let's save that and give it a try. When we reload our app, we can see that we have our messages list in our console. Next, let's display these messages in the message area we created earlier. So let's scroll down and get rid of the console log on line 34 in our getMessages call. And instead, we will iterate through each message in our data and call addMessage. We can do that with data.forEach. And that auto-generates a forEach function for us with a callback. So we're using just data.forEach. Then inside, we'll call addMessages and supply the message object as the argument. Let's save that and give it a try. Soon as I refresh, our list populates our message history area. We can do a quick optimization. Since the signature of our addMessages function matches the signature of the callback we're supplying, we don't need a callback at all. We can simply call for each and then supply the name of our function, add messages. And now our add messages function will be called directly instead of going through an inline callback. Let's save that and make sure it still works. So I've refreshed the page and both messages are still there. Now that we're able to get messages, next let's see how we can post new messages.